So what is the appropriate role of government versus the private sector? Where does the commons begin and end? Harris Kenny is a policy analyst with the Reason Foundation. Reason.org is their website and the co-editor of their annual privatization report. Harris, welcome to the program.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
So you're celebrating, I guess, the level of privatization, the number of prison rooms, what do you call them, cells, I guess, that have been taken out of government hands and put into the hands of people who make a profit off it, the number of water systems that have been taken out of government hands and put into the hands of people who can make a profit off it, the number of electrical systems that have been taken out of government hands, out of the hands of we the people, and put in the hands of fat cats who can make a profit off it. Why are you celebrating this?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. So in our report that just came out, it's actually not positive or supporting or criticizing. It's just basically saying what's happened.
Right, but the whole point of the Reason Foundation is to support privatization, is it not?
We do support privatization when it makes sense, but this report isn't necessarily a celebration. It's basically saying what's going on. And in this report, you're right, we look at corrections, education, water, and I would question your premise that we're taking things out of the commons and giving them to greedy fat cats. A lot of times these are actually lease agreements and, handing over to nonprofits and we're maintaining public ownership over assets. So I'm not entirely sure your premise.
Well, well, thank you. Where should the commons begin and end? I mean, if it's not the job of all of us, we the people, I mean, the first three words of the Constitution, we the people, there are certain things that are so important to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to literally be able to live and be free, that you don't want them in the hands of somebody whose primary interest is not serving the public good, whose primary interest is making money. And I would think at the very top of that would be things like water.
Sure. Well, I think what I would say is that I agree. There are definitely core functions of government. And if you read through the report, what we're seeing is basically policymakers at the state and local level are out of money. And so they're finding different ways to deliver services.
But they're not out of money. They're only out of money in those states where right-wingers have passed laws, like in California and Oregon, that require where the legislature can't raise taxes without a supermajority. They're only out of money in those states where Republicans run the state, and they're absolutely unwilling to raise taxes. You have corporate revenue right now, corporate tax revenue, that was 35% of all government spending back in the 1950s and 60s. That's now less than 10% of government spending. I mean, there's a lot of money being made in this country, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money in this country. It's not that governments are out of money. It's that the governments are being restrained by people who share your philosophy.
Well, actually, government revenue has been going up for decades. So I'm not sure what numbers you're talking
because
about.
Inflation has been lowering the value of the dollar for decades. But government spending in real dollars right now is at a 60-year low. 60 years.
Is that, I mean, are you including federal, state,
Yes.
local? I'm not sure the
Yes.
source of your statistics, but I mean, government is doing more than they ever have before. So I'm not sure the source of the data you're
No,
looking
actually,
at.
our government has been consistently shrinking over the last decade or so. Well, other than Bush blowing it up for the military.
I'm sorry. Where is that? Where is the evidence of that?
Well, the number of government employees. We've had 470,000 government employees laid off since Barack Obama became president. Now, most of them were laid off in red states by Republican governors, but the net number of government employees nationwide has dropped by almost 500,000 just in the last 3 years. Government is getting smaller.
Does the data you're looking at include full-time equivalent employees? Because oftentimes what they'll do is they'll fire employees, but in reality they're just closing open positions that haven't been filled yet. So
I frankly don't know. I do believe that the numbers are pretty solid, though. But the
in my
point,
hometown of Denver, is basically they said we've had hundreds of layoffs, but in actuality, almost all of the layoffs have been vacant positions that have not been filled. So a person wasn't fired, an equivalent of a person that would have been filled.
Okay, well, instead of dueling numbers here, Harris,
Yeah.
We're talking with Harris Kenny, a policy analyst at the Reason Foundation. Why should any community surrender their sovereignty and control over their water supply to a French corporation?
Sure. Well, water is actually a great example. So
and the French
an
are the biggest
essential
owners of
resource.
private water supplies in the United States and around the world now. So, Why?
Yeah,
why
there are
should
several large-scale concessionaires, and obviously France is not a radical right-wing country.
No, but their corporations are, and the corporation in France, what is it called, Aqua?
There are several, and there are quite a few private sector water companies.
They have absolutely ravaged a number of communities. I mean, it's just. Did you ever read the story of what happened down in what was it, Ecuador? I believe it was when Bechtel and another couple of companies came in and privatized their water supply and said to people, "We now own the rainwater," because most of the people in this poor area took their water supply from off their roofs. And said, you've got to pay us when you take water off your roof, and the people revolted?
I'm not familiar with that story. What I'll say is this, and there's lots of horror stories of public and private management of assets, you name it, water, roads, parking. The key is in the contract. And so basically, my premise is simple. It's that if we can't trust the public sector to contract and oversee something like water, then why do we expect them to own it, operate it, and maintain it? If they can't even contract and oversee it, why would we expect that they could operate it? So, I mean, the key
your premise is flawed, Harris. Your premise assumes that you can't trust government. And if you can't trust government, it's because it's been corrupted by something. And in most cases, what it's been corrupted by is corporate money.
Well, I say that you can trust them, but I don't want a conflict. I don't want the fox guarding the hen house. I want government to be overseeing, and I want the private sector to be held accountable through contracts. Whereas under normal public provision,
why throw somebody in the middle?
Watching.
Why say, okay, this community, we've got 1 million people in this community, and they all need water, and we're going to provide that water. And we, the city, whatever, we're going to build a water treatment plant. I mean, this is how it traditionally was done. We'll build a water treatment plant. We'll sell 20-year bonds to raise the money and all that. Why should we hand that over to a private for-profit corporation that has to skim at least 10 or 15% off the top to be able to distribute assets, dividends, to their shareholders, and that is paying their CEOs millions of dollars? Why should we do that? Why should we, the people, ever have to have private contractors involved in things the government is doing that involve the commons?
That's a fair question. Well, I guess what I would say is that we, the people, aren't necessarily doing that because we don't have a direct democracy. It's our representatives that are choosing to do that.
Via our representatives.
I think they choose to do it for a few reasons. One is that private sector companies, when there's oversight through contracts, they're able to bring in best practices from national work. And
government can do that just as well.
They do.
NASA works really, really well. The Social Security Administration's has never bounced a check or failed to write a check. I mean, the government actually does things. The Army, everybody says, it's very efficient, it works very well. The government is actually competent. It's just it needs to be held to account by we the people. But you guys want to take it away from the we the people, put it in the hands of a fat cat who's responsive to nobody. If I show up at a private corporation to protest the CEO, I get arrested. If I show up in my member of Congress's office with a sign, I'm a patriot.
Well, Tom, I mean, these contracts are being done by elected officials. I mean, if people don't like what is done,
elected officials who are being bought and paid by these companies. And this is my whole point, is that because of the Supreme Court doctrine that money is somehow speech and not property, and therefore protected under the First Amendment, you've got corporations corrupting government, and it's a horrible thing. And I think that you're enabling it. In fact, if anything, encouraging it.
Well, I mean, I think voters are the ones that are putting these people in office, and voters need to be accountable. So if voters aren't paying attention,
so it's all you dirty voters' fault.
I'm a voter too.
Okay, Harris Kenny, Reason.org. Thanks, Harris.
Thanks, Thomas.